Hello, welcome back to Blackwater Fishing. I'm Bryce. So today we're in front of the kayak and we're going to go over round 11 of the mystery tackle box versus the monster bass. So stick around. We're in front of the kayak today, and if you regularly view this channel, you know that I typically have the kayak on the other side of my garage, which also doubles as my shop for my business. And last time, I told you I was going to look for a better spot to where I could actually do filming. So the weather is nice today, I'd made some changes to my shop, and now my kayak is on the opposite side, which is subsequently where we're recording from. But more importantly, we're here for round 11 of the mystery tackle box versus the monster bass box. And if you've been watching, you'll know that Monster Bass has 6 wins to Mystery Tackle Box 4 wins. So, Mystery Tackle Box basically has to run the board from November to December just to tie it. So, it'll be a tough task, but we'll see who takes it. So, starting off, as we always do, we have the Mystery Tackle Box. And I want to talk about shipping. So we've noticed over the last couple months that when there's a holiday, shipping on these items really comes to a grinding halt, and it takes forever to get your items in. However, that was not the case for the mystery tackle box this month. It actually arrived well before the holiday. I believe I got mine on maybe the 6th or 5th, which is probably the fastest I've ever received my mystery tackle box. On the other hand, our Monster Bass box did not show up until yesterday, and today is the 14th, so it showed up on the 13th. So we're going to give the first point already to the Mystery Tackle box. So let's get into this box. So as we open it up, we always go over how the box is actually packaged. It's packaged decently. As I say, it's always packaged decently, but for Mystery Tackle box's standards, this is actually pretty good. But we can't really compare that with Monster Basses. I just think they're in a different level when it comes to packaging. So let's see what we have. And so first we have the Weston Magic Minnow. This is a 20-gram head, and overall it's a 32-gram bait. It's going to be a swim bait, a paddletail swim bait, and it's definitely in a shad color pattern. I haven't used this particular model, but it does look very similar to the other Westons that we got last month. And it has a very familiar shape as the Weston topwater baits, if you ever used any of those. So, decent bait. The next item we have is the Grunt Ready Go. And this is a, it's actually not a swim head jig. I actually don't know what kind of jig head this is. It almost looks like a combination of a swim jig and a football head. Very interesting, and it's got black and blue within it. It's got some brown, and then it actually has a craw that is on the trailer, and we have 2 extra crosshairs. This is from Thunderhawk, and it's probably one of Mystery Tackle Boxes or Shot Carl's, or even Catch Co., one of their brands. I haven't seen this brand before, and I haven't seen this bait before, so I'll be interested to give this a try, especially now that we're getting into the colder months. You can really start to use a jig very effectively. The next that we have is the Googan Squad, the Mini Recon. This is their crankbait that they have. This is a craw pattern, and the mini ones dive, I believe, to 3 to 6 feet, so also another good one. Especially right now, the bass are still, or at least out here in California, most of the bass are still fairly shallow. I've seen them usually around the 10-foot mark, but as that water gets colder, or as the temperature gets colder, they're going to start to dive a little deeper, and that's when you want to bring out your big, deep diving crankbaits. But for this month, I still think you'll be okay with a shallower or mid to shallow crankbait. The next item that we have is the Zoner. This is from Major Craft. And this is another craw pattern crankbait, and this one dives, let's see how deep this one dives. This one dives 3.5 to 6.5 feet, so again, right within that target zone that we're looking for. It's got a very similar shape and color to a lot of the kind of the craw crankbaits that you see, so it's probably one of the blanks for those, just painted in their style and then repackaged. But either way, I love crankbaits, so it should still be a great bait. The next we have is the Lunker Hunt. This is their wire arm finesse spinner. It is a spinnerbait. a little different than another spinnerbait that I've seen. It's got almost like a jig head or a crappie head on the top with the paddle tail that is in the white color, and it's got the 2 blades. We've got the willow leaf and the Colorado blade. Fairly small for a spinnerbait that I've ever seen, and it's pre-rigged. And of course, we've got the little loop in there that I discussed last week. That'll keep your line from sliding down. The next item that we have is the Hog Farmer Bait Co. This doesn't have a name on here, but this is basically a really fat kind of style, or really fat, soft plastic worm. It's in maybe like a black purple. It doesn't really have anything that kind of tells us what it is on here, but it's got one thing that's really interesting is that it has the ribbed body, but the tail is smooth and it's way smaller or way thinner than the rest of the bait. So I haven't seen anything like this before, so I'll be interested to give that a try as well. Next we have is the net bait, the big bopper. This is in their watermelon candy color, as they call it. It's a 5 3/4 inch, basically a curly tail worm, and you can use this pretty much any way that you want. You can Texas rig it, you can drop shot it, wacky rig it, you can put on a jig head, and like I said, as that water gets colder and the fish start to go deeper, I would really look towards a Texas rig if you're just going to sit on the bottom and just kind of move it around, or a drop shot. I think the drop shot is probably the most widely used technique when it gets really cold, but I could be wrong. The next item we have is the headbanger. This is the rocker head, and this is a jig head. Again, I don't know what kind of style jig head this is. It actually, in all honesty, it has the color and the shape of those Hershey Kisses, especially if you left it in the sun and it kind of melted a little bit. That's exactly what this jig head looks like. They call it the Muddy Brown, and it's 2/7 of an ounce with a 4/0 hook. So, I'm assuming that they're wanting us to put these on here, since there's nothing else in the box. We've got our manual, we've got what's in the box. Our sticker is a swim bait, a jointed body swim bait, and of course we have Harmony hooks, which has come to really be a staple inside the mystery tackle box. So for this month, I think they did a fairly good job just on their own. We'll obviously compare that to the Monsterbass box here in just a minute, but just a few things that I think are going to be really good for this particular month are 2 crankbaits. And other than the fact that I love crankbaiting, it's just the go-to power fishing technique that I love to use, and I will pull out a crankbait any time of the year. That aside, I think that these are 2 really good selections for this month, not only in their colors, but also in their shape, their size, and the amount that they dive. So I think they hit it out of the park with those 2. And then the other item that I will be really interested to give a try is the Weston. It's got, like I said, it's got that jig head on the front, it's got the paddle tail on the back, so it's almost a mixture of a swim bait and a really interesting looking bottom contact jig. So I think these 3 items are probably the best in this entire box, and I think they're really great items. Let's go ahead and grab our Monsterbass box, and let's go ahead and open this box. So I'm going to start off by talking about the shipping. As we do, and I've already kind of touched on, the shipping for this month as a whole for Monsterbass was actually very quick, or at least faster than their average. However, they still came behind Mystery Tackle Box, so that's why they're not going to get the point for that. And then another thing I want to touch on is the box is really kind of jacked up. However, that was not for Monsterbass. In all the infinite wisdom, my mailman decided he wanted to put this ginormous box in one of those tiny little mail slots of the regular mailbox instead of the one you open with the key. So the only way for me to get this thing out was to actually smash the box so I could pull it out. He's done that a couple times now, but this box was like slightly higher than the other ones, so I had to smash it all that much more to get it out. However, that will give us a good indicator of how well they actually packed the box this month. So as we open it, we see again that their box is nice and neat with their label on the top. And one thing that I can immediately notice is that their hooks, which are not going to be the spear points this month, are actually in the back. So it's not typically where they are. They're typically laying flat towards the bottom of the box. But this is not typical of Monster Bass's pick, but that's okay. And so we have falling leaves feeding the bass. So that's going to be the thing for this month. If you want to read that manual, you can. And they also give you tips on how to use these particular baits if you don't know how to use them. So we'll just go ahead and go with the hooks. These are the Daiichi Pro X. These are 3/0, and there's 3 of them. And if you want to see them, they're more like a so these are 3/0, and there's 3 of them. And as I said, the Daiichi Pro X, and these are offset hooks. So you can use these for like a lot of if you want to use a Texas rig, but you didn't actually want to use an EWG, you can use one of these offset hooks. I'm not a big fan of offset hooks. I really like my EWGs, and then I like using the Spear Point GP Finesse when I do drop shots or anything like that. Other than that, I typically try not to use any other hooks. So the first bait that we have in here is the Z63. This is from the Arc Elite series, and one of my favorite lipless crankbaits that are out there. I don't have this color, I haven't seen this color before, and it really just kind of looks like motor oil. And they call this the bluegill. Honestly, does not look like a bluegill to me. Interesting. It does not look like a bluegill to me. It looks more like a sunfish or crappie. More so a crappie than a sunfish. But again, this actual bait is money. If you learn how to use this properly, you can catch a fish anywhere you go using this. The next item that we have is the Monsterbass branded. This is their flat line. It dives 2 to 6 feet, so again, within that range that we're looking for. And it's 5/8 of an ounce. And I have not seen a crankbait that looks like this. This, for its size, as the height that I mean, it's really kind of big. It's a little bit wider. It's a square bill. It's definitely got a really light color on there, and they call this the sexy cracks. It does have a lot of cracks in there. It's very kind of bluish and whitish, but I've not seen a crankbait that looks like this. It's got ribs on the bottom of it, actual, I don't know what you call actual, it has textile ribs. Let's go with that. It has textile ribs on the bottom. The cracks look like they're raised, so you can actually feel those too. And it's got these big black eyes in here with the red leading hook and then the silver trailing hook. But it is a crankbait, so hopefully it'll fish like a crankbait, and it might give them a different look, so you can be a little bit more successful. But as I stated, crankbaits within that 2 to 10 foot range are going to do fantastic. The next item that we have is the high def craw. So this just looks like they're soft plastics. I don't see any hooks in there, and they're from Tackle HD. And so they're green craws. They call this the green pumpkin. I don't see any pumpkin in here. It's just straight green. And they're 3 inches long, and you get a pack of 4. The next item in our box is going to be from the 8B8 Labs. And this is their, let's see what they call this thing. There it is. They call this the Holo Shiner. I think that's how you say it, the Holo Shiner. So this is a jerk bait, and it's definitely in a shiner pattern. If you have shiner out on your lakes or your rivers, we apparently have them here in the Sacramento region of California. I have not actually seen one in the water, or even caught one, or even hooked one in a net, or anything like that. I have not seen one at all, but I do read all the materials like you're supposed to when you're researching, and they do say that we have them. I just have not seen them. So I'm not sure how effective that's going to be for the color, but for the jerkbait action, it should do fairly well. The next item we have is the KVD Perfect Plastics. This is their rodent crawdaddy. If you've been around fishing any amount of time, you know what these are. They're basically kind of craw creature baits, and they have a little slot that's cut out for the hook, plus they have the ribs that kind of just make it what it is, and they're usually scented with coffee flavor. Don't know if that really helps, but that's that. Got our golden ticket. And then the last item that we have in here as far as baits is we've got a razor jig. And it says it's a razor custom. And this is a 3/8 ounce. This is definitely a swim jig. It's got a really green or yellow fluorescent color. A little bit more than chartreuse, so I wouldn't call this chartreuse. Definitely like a neon green, and it's got black and blue, a black and blue skirt, and it also has a weed guard on here. But as I said, this is definitely a swim jig. It's a little bit wider of a swim jig than I've really seen before, but unmistakable shape and profile. And then also it has its trailer hook there, or trailer keeper, whatever you prefer to call it. And then the sticker for this month is another Monsterbass sticker. I think this is going to be their new kind of go-to, is putting Monsterbass stickers in here. I believe this is the 3rd month in a row that we've got something that's just been straight Monsterbass branded without really anything too crazy. So overall for this box, there is again a couple things that I think are going to be really great for this box 3 as well. I think the jerk bait, even though I'm not entirely sold on the color, I believe that this is going to be a great bait for you to fish, to kind of hook in those active topwater fish. Since out of these 2 boxes here, I can't really give one the complete edge. Out of these 2 boxes here, I think that they both did a very good job this month. Again, I don't think that any of these boxes ever completely hit it out of the park, where you're like, man, that is the box that I need to get my hands on it, it's going to catch me all the fish. I don't think that that's what they're designed for. I think really, as we kind of spend more and more time throughout the year kind of analyzing these boxes, I think the main catch is to kind of get fishermen or anglers with baits that will work. And by that, I mean that they're not going to catch the biggest, they're not going to catch the smallest. You're going to be really on that average cookie cutter size, anywhere from like 12 to 15 inch bass if you're on a kayak, or if you're on a boat, anywhere between like a pound and a pound and a half bass. So I definitely don't believe that you're going to be bringing in any 10 pounders, 5 pounders, 8 pounders, anything like that. But I think you can take these baits, learn them really well, and be effective on your body of water. Now, when it comes to both of these boxes, I do think they did a really good job. They both had 3 pieces of tackle that I thought would be fairly good for this month. However, I do think one of these boxes did just a little bit more with their color selection and their actual inclusions of the baits that are going to be more effective than the other. And honestly, I have to say that I believe Mystery Tackle Box this month like barely edged out Monster Bass. So just a little bit with their bait selections, but really the real kicker that's going to really push Mystery Tackle Box over the edge was their shipping speed. It got here like I believe like a week faster than the Monster Bass. And that includes the holiday that was in there. They got it out into me before the holiday started. So that brings our total from 6 to 4 to 6 to 5. So Mystery Tackle Box really has to pull it out next month to tie it up. And in that event, I believe we might be analyzing 3 boxes for January. So I will announce next month who the challenger will be if Monster Bass wins it, or who the challenger will be to both of these boxes if it ends in a tie. So if you're interested in seeing that, be sure to stop by next month. Thanks for coming. Catch you next time.